to introduce a short debate.
Diolch Llywydd. I'm pleased also to give a minute of my time to James Evans and Jane Dodds also. I should also declare an interest as I'm also a member of the Montgomery Waterway Restoration Trust. The Montgomery Canal was once a 35-mile stretch of waterway weaving from the English border into the heart of Mid Wales at Newtown. Volunteers and a range of community groups have and are now working very hard to restore the canal to its status as a corridor through Montgomeryshire communities for visitors, walkers, ecology and trade from tourism. And these organisations include the Montgomery Canal Partnership, the Canal and Rivers Trust, the Friends of Montgomery Canal, Montgomery Waterway Restoration Trust, and Shropshire Union Canal Society and Mid Wales Tourism. I want to explore briefly the canal's history before moving on to talk about some of the canal's benefits to Mid Wales. The Montgomery Canal in its heyday served communities such as Llanymynech, Welshpool, Garthmill and Newtown. And the canal was built in stages from the mid-1790s through to 1819 for transporting materials from local businesses, including agriculture. Through the 1920s and 1930s, the canal saw dwindling rates of freight and was forced to close to boats in 1936. Local people have been passionate about the canal and its preservation for decades. In 1960, the community fought proposals for the use of its route for a bypass, not the Newtown bypass, I should add, and have worked very hard ever since to restore the canal to operational use. Volunteers were instrumental in restoring a 12-mile section of the canal which runs through Welshpool, and there's a picture of just that behind me if you look closely. And this was reopened by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales back at that point. Volunteers have been, of course, vital to conserving the locks and substantial numbers of listed structures along the canal's route. Then late last year in 2021, a bid by Powys County Council to the UK government's Levelling Up Fund secured funding for the restoration of a 4.4-mile stretch of the canal near Llanymynech, and this funding will create two restored sections separated only by half a mile where two road bridges need to be replaced. So that was the stumbling block at the end of last year. But I'm pleased to say that just this month, the Welsh and the UK governments working together have signed the Mid Wales Growth Deal. And this deal should further help the canal's restoration and is likely to fund the rebuilding of the two road bridges needed to bring the two restored sections together. This will then bring the opening of the canal section close to the English border from just where a 2-mile stretch needs to be restored to connect it to the national network. And this land required is in the ownership, of course, of the Canal and Rivers Trust. Sometimes the benefits of the canal's restoration can be difficult to appreciate because the financial and well-being impacts are spread across various local individuals and businesses. And there are already, of course, some benefits, or many benefits, to the existing stretch of the canal's restoration around Welshpool. The Helwyn Trust does amazing work offering canal trips to those who might not otherwise able to access them on the UK's first adapted boat for vulnerable people. And these trips are offered free of charge thanks to local fundraising and help people in more difficult circumstances to celebrate birthdays and enjoy times with loved ones. And they can, of course, access and enjoy the benefits that many of us enjoy on the waterways. And I'm very pleased to join them myself for a journey on the boat on the Helwyn 2. Again, a picture you can perhaps just about see behind me on my wall. And local people will benefit in a number of ways from the canal's restoration. There'll be increased employment opportunities from the new and expanded businesses to the area. And I'm confident that many private enterprise and investment opportunities will be unlocked by the restoration. And the restoration represents a huge regeneration opportunity. And I'm very keen that Powys County Council comes to the table with a master plan on the back of the public sector investment. In the wake of the pandemic, of course, exercise, as we know, is even more important to us than ever before. And those that have canals in other constituencies will know just how popular they can be for local people when it comes to walking and taking out dogs or undertaking other exercise. I was very pleased some years ago to visit the canals in Scotland, along with a number of other Senedd members as well, to understand the benefits there. I was quickly persuaded, as I know all members were on that trip, that waterways encourage people to exercise more and improve well-being, as a number of reports demonstrate. And of course, the canal locally already hosts the Montgomery Canal Triathlon, which brings 200 entrants from across the UK and 90 volunteers together. The canal is also, of course, part of our local history and culture, and preserving it with its fantastic range of listed structures will serve and save an important part of our shared past for future generations to come. So what will the future bring? Over 10 years post restoration, the additional visitor generated by the canal is estimated to be over £23 million, according to the feasibility studies by the Montgomery Canal Partnership. And of course, this will benefit shops, cafes and attractions. And by storing the canal and boosting those businesses, more facilities for local people and tourists in our towns and villages can of course be preserved. The canal will also give Mid Wales a brand to promote itself to potential visitors. And of course, Montgomeryshire has a brilliant visitor attractions such as Powys Castle and Welshpool Llanfairpwllgwyngyllgogerychwraig Railway that the canal will complement as well. Conservation and sympathetic sustainable reopening of the canal are also at the heart of the ethos of all those involved in the delivery of this exciting project. And I'm very pleased that Montgomeryshire Wildlife, of which I'm also a member, has actively contributed to this project and will continue to do so. Ambition for the area for progressing the project to the complete restoration of the canal is extremely high. The momentum that we now see will get a substantial section of the canal finished, and we should be looking then, of course, to press on to plans to the Newtown section, so that when construction is finished on the current stages, energy, manpower and funding will continue with the restoration. Newtown Town Council has been enthusiastic supporters of the project. I know are very keen that some of the fund to support some of the funding works required for this phase. I'm particularly pleased as well to see that the restoration of the canal has seen such widespread support from across the political spectrum. I know that Jane Dodds and my colleague James Evans be speaking in support of the canal restoration today as well. But from my own party, my own MP, Craig Williams, has been actively campaigning for the canal and made it one of his priorities since being re-elected. Back in 2020, the First Minister spoke very favourably about the project when I asked him about the efforts to promote the fantastic heritage of Mid Wales. I know the previous Economy Minister, Ken Skates, was very positive and supportive of the scheme, and he certainly has expressed his wider views that the canals are vital for the tourism industry in Wales. And I agree, of course, wholeheartedly. And I hope that the continuation of this project will see Mid Wales enjoy the same benefits as other areas of Wales with active joined-up canals. I was also delighted when Lord Alice Thomas joined me back on a trip on the Welshpool section of the canal back in October 2018. You'll have to have very good eyesight to see the picture behind me, the small picture behind me of me and David on the canal back in 2018. And David, as the tourism minister then, he was particularly keen to see the restoration of the canal. So much has already been achieved in the canal's restoration. This has been significantly boosted recently by a number of significant announcements of funding. I'm sure the Minister will want to encourage all departments across the Welsh Government to support the organisations restoring the canal in seeking further funding opportunities for this project, which links our communities together. And we should celebrate the canal's further potential for boosting our local well-being, economy and heritage, and thank those very many volunteers who over many decades have already done so much for our community. Diolch yn fawr.